All right, knight f6. All right. Bogo Indian or Nimzo Indian? Right here, bishop here, Bogo. Right here, knight here, bishop here, Nimzo. All right. And this is the Leningrad, isn't it? I want to first have this bishop declare its intentions. Okay. At the very least, I could grab this knight, ruin white structure, and they don't have a dark square bishop around. So in other words, I could obtain an imbalance that I believe is favorable for me. White has a structural damage, and they don't have a bishop pair as compensation for it. Or do I just maintain the pin with queen takes and then focus my sights on d4 with moves like c5, and if takes, then this could really be a problem. I think I'm going to do that. I'm not going to take the knight. As follow-ups, I'm going to run with this. Let's do it right now. That knight is still pinned, a pinned piece, powerless. And now, okay, only after being provoked am I going to consider taking now. However, might I do better to first take on d4 and only then take the knight? If pawn takes bishop, pawn takes knight, I end up winning material. Pawn takes pawn. If queen takes, now I take. And then there ends up being double isolated c-pawns, which I will later try to target by playing a rook on the c-file. I'm investing a lot of time right now because I'm trying to forecast a good sequence of moves that will enable me to then devise a good middle game plan. And I think I do well to first take here. Taking right here, right now, allows pawn takes, and then if I take, then there's a recapture and the pawns are undoubled. That said, I think I take here first. I would much rather these pawns be double isolated, and I think that that's what we're going to see. Or if my bishop is taken, we're going to have a situation where I'm going to be up material. Pawn takes bishop, pawn takes knight. Pawn takes pawn, queen takes pawn, and actually it's going to turn out to be more than just a pawn up. And this knight would then be having to run backwards because the queen block would not be there because of the pressure I would have from c3 with my queen on this rook. I think the best continuation is just to immediately recapture on d4. So how is that going to be done? I think in either case, I just grab this knight with my bishop and then play against this structural deficiency. Okay. A lot of time being chewed up, but then again, I chewed up a lot of time. So, oh wait, I don't, actually it doesn't matter, or does it? No, I'm going to take this, I'm going to take the queen first, and then take the knight. And now, where would I want to have my knight? c5? Knight a6 to c5? Where there exists isolated pawns, there exists homes. I'm looking for that one. That's something I said earlier in the stream if you weren't here. Or even if you were here, I still said it. I still said it. Whether or not you were here, I still said it. Okay. I might want to be a little bit concerned about this pawn coming down. If I play b6, this pawn could engage with my b pawn. I only have a few more moves to really focus on, and then I could rattle off more faster, I believe. I'm going to go with this. I did think for a split second about going to c6, but the knight takes, and then because I have a pawn on c, it's not as easy to get at these guys. So if knight here, there is no threat of a fork on c7, I'll probably just bump my king up to e7. My follow-up moves, I'm not considering castling at all. Forget about it. Who cares about castling? Going to e7 is sufficient. He's more centrally located. King e7, d6. I'm not sure where I want to go with my light square bishop. I might want to go to d7. I might want to take the time to play b6. I think it's better to maybe just go with b6, bishop b7. But in the meantime, what is this bishop going to do? Is it going to be causing me a problem on this diagonal with g3, bishop, g2? We're not having that. And maybe before this pawn could somehow clamp down on this square, I should probably move. Yeah, let's do that. This knight could go here and target this pawn, but I'm pretty sure I did the calculations correctly. Knight here, king e7, rook d1, rook d8, and I don't know if there's additional pressure that could be placed. As a follow-up, I could then be running with knight c5. Let's go here. I could be running with knight c5. If the knight is on b5, I could play knight c5 followed up with a6 to kick the knight away. And now I'm in a position to get developed and eventually put pressure on this pawn. I might also want to play to a4. You'll note that there's homes on these squares as well. The C file, not squares, the files. There's homes on the C file as well as the A file. Pawn push release has a threat on my knight, but I just capture. And now, let's just go here. And double rooks on the C file, and then this is going to be very difficult to defend. Let's go with this one, so that in the event that my king is attacked or something, there's not going to be any king being stuck in between my rooks. So that's why I went with this one instead of this one. Rook c7, rook a to c8. My knight is being attacked, but I feel like I've been in a similar position before like this. I'm going to avoid the exchange for right now and just put pressure on this guy. And I may also want to reroute my bishop to a6. We're going to see about that. Holmes. This is very awkward now. To have to devote a piece to the defense of a pawn. We're evening out time-wise. So now what? It's pile up on these weak links time. Rook h, okay, we're not having that. Double rooks. Okay, strictly defensive mode. Before I go here, I'm going to go here. For a brief second, I was thinking as soon as I play here, there's this pawn push, but that is not the case because I could always take that pawn and defend my bishop. If I didn't have that available, pawn push, bishop takes bishop is met with first, bishop is met with first, pawn takes pawn with check, or even pawn takes here on my rook. But we don't really have that going on. So now I want to just eliminate one of these two, and then this cannot be held. How can I get my knight attacking this pawn again? For a second, I thought go to c5, b7, a5, but what's wrong with just playing here immediately? I know what's wrong. I know what's wrong. There's that pawn push that's available. That's okay, I'm going to do it. I still get this pawn at the end of it. I would still get that pawn at the end of it. This isn't the cleanest approach. Maybe I could have just done some move where this pawn push would not be available. And if it's not played, I think it's an even cleaner approach to the rest of the game. Okay, that is being played. Now I take, and now I'm just winning a pawn. So there had to be that in-betweener, but it was not played, and so now it's more than just a pawn that's being lost. This one's going down, and probably this one. Okay, now it's hit 3 times. Pawn push just runs into a pin, and I could really pile up on it even more. I have enough defense on it, and that comes with check. Those were the weak links, and they are falling. Pass pawns, they're connected. Push them. It's going at a little bit of a snail's pace, but my rook is enough. I don't even need my king support to get these pawns advanced. As soon as the rook plays to the c file, I just scoot my king over. Little by little. I'm on this pawn. I'm going to take him. Just coming back over here is good enough. Inching my way up. Little by little with check. Pawn push again, and then rook here. Okay. Then pawn push away. I'm actually having better success with these moves in this browser with moving fast and not mouse slipping, which is refreshing. All right, good game. Let's go back and take away something from this, because the bulk of the game, where the game was Where the battle was won and lost is with the very, very early decisions because of the resulting structure. As soon as you ended up in that structure, I really do feel that it was just a matter of time before they just started dropping those weak links on the C file. So how to avoid that is the big question. One way to do that is to just run with the classical line. That classical line says queen c2 in this position. Just preparing to challenge the bishop with a3, and after bishop takes knight, you recapture with the queen. You do invest some time in doing that. You do pick up an imbalance and knight for bishop exchange. Black does have more rapid development, but it's something to look into. If you're going to be playing bishop to g5 and after h6, if you take this knight, I think it's safe to say that you cannot claim any advantage because you have the white pieces. If anything, maybe you are to back up to h4. But taking the knight, really, it's hard for me to see that it grants white any advantage. So back up if anything. If you were to back up, I was going to be playing moves like c5 and thoughts of queen a5. So I think it could start to become very sharp, and maybe it's a bit uncomfortable, right, because of the pins and me striking at your center. So if this isn't comfortable with you, or if you're not comfortable with this, look into the classical line, queen c2, something I could learn a little bit more about myself on both sides. So once here, this is trouble. A3 is probably not the way to go. Maybe it's best to just support your center with e3 and then just make way for your bishop to develop. As soon as it's double isolated c-pawns, this is big trouble. This is very, very big trouble. You have no compensation for it. I was saying earlier, sometimes black will impose this structural damage on white, but white could then say, it can come back with, well, I have the bishop pair. You don't have that. There's no compensation for this. So that's why I'm focusing on these first dozen moves where really the tables do turn. So at the very least, should it get to this point, assuming that you did still run with the bishop takes knight, which I do not recommend, look into this e3 move. Support your center, make way for your light square bishop to come out. Okay.